Welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're tackling a concept that is, honestly, universally relevant, yet it's so rarely talked about in a clear, structured way. I mean, have you ever felt completely adrift in your own life? Like the ground beneath you is just constantly shifting? Especially when the whole world around you seems to be spinning totally out of control? Well, today we're looking at this fascinating piece of writing by Xu Feng that asks a really simple but profoundly deep question. Do you have a personal anchor in chaotic times? We're going to visually map out exactly what keeps societies, and, more importantly, our own minds from plunging into total chaos. So answer these questions honestly for me right now. Are you feeling dazed? Is your mind unsettled? Do you look around and just see absolutely no clear path ahead of you? Maybe you're anxious, restless, or you feel like literally no one answers when you call out to heaven or earth. If any of that resonates with you, well, the authors suggest that the root issue isn't actually your job, your relationships, or your bank account. Actually, scratch that, it goes much deeper. The issue lies with something called your pillar of stability. Basically, if you're feeling lost, it simply means your pillar is missing or, the one you've chosen just isn't holding up. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The Golden Cudgel, or the mythological anchor. To really understand what this concept of the pillar means, we've got to look at its deep mythological roots. Specifically, we're talking about the classic Chinese epic Journey to the West. In Chinese, this concept is known as Ding Hai Shen Zhen. The text recalls this legendary story of the Monkey King, Sun Wukong. So in the myth, Sun Wukong visits the Dragon King of the East Sea and quote-unquote borrows his famous weapon, the Golden Cudgel. But here's the catch. When Sun Wukong pulls this enormous cudgel out of the ocean floor, something massive happens. The entire East Sea, and especially the Dragon Palace, just violently shakes. Why? Well, because that golden cudgel wasn't just a weapon, it was the literal pillar of stability for the entire sea. With it firmly in place, the waters remained perfectly calm. But without it, no way. The sea instantly surged into absolute chaos. The author uses this fantastic imagery to define what a pillar of stability actually is. It's a core foundation that keeps a system, or a mind, completely calm. Let's move to, and see how this builds in Section 2, Pillars of Nations. What keeps a society from chaos? Let's look at how this actually applies to the real world. We're shifting from sweeping ancient mythology to historical reality here, just to see how this exact same concept applies to the massive global superpowers we see today. Like, what keeps an entire society from collapsing into chaos? Well, the text provides two starkly different historical examples of national pillars. Take a system-based pillar, for example. The author asks why the United States has remained stable for over 200 years. The answer they provide is its specific structural anchor, the separation of legislative, executive, and judicial powers, combined with media oversight. The text notes that without this anchor, the nation might have turned into another Zimbabwe or Venezuela. Contrast that with a figure-based pillar. The author points out that from 1949 to 1976, despite widespread poverty, China was relatively stable in terms of the people's mental and emotional state. Why is that? Because they had a human pillar of stability, Mao Zedong. The text neutrally states that regardless of how history ultimately judges him, as long as Mao was in power, that society remains stabilized. And we see this exact same figure-based anchor in ancient courts too, where emperors served as the ultimate central pillar for their people. And this brilliantly illustrates just how literal that figure-based stability was in the ancient world. Check this out. Historically, when an emperor died, royal courts would keep it a massive secret. They'd sometimes even load carts of rotting fish around the emperor's carriage just to hide the smell of death. I mean, wow. But why go to such extreme lengths? Because the moment the news got out that the pillar had fallen, various interest groups would instantly begin to stir, plot, and erupt into chaos. This historical anecdote absolutely confirms that emperors were the literal physical anchors of their time. The moment you remove the anchor, well, the sea surges. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how we bring it home. Section 3, Pillars of the Heart, Anchoring the Individual Mind. So we've talked about constitutions as pillars of national stability, right? And emperors as pillars of a nation. But let's zoom all the way into something much more intimate, your pillar of the heart, or the pillar of the mind. Everyone has a different way of anchoring themselves. For devout Christians, their pillar of stability is Jesus Christ. Their security comes purely from faith. For Buddhists, the Buddha is their pillar. These are your religious or spiritual pillars. But, for some people, money is their primary pillar of stability. As long as they possess wealth, they feel totally secure. For others, it's status. Maintaining power and position is what keeps them anchored. And for a lot of us, we find our pillar of stability in our professional lives. Staying busy, achieving daily fulfillment, and striving toward career goals is what keeps our minds steady. But as we're about to see, not all pillars are created equal, and some, well, they're incredibly precarious to rely on. Which brings us right into Section 4. When pillars collapse, the danger of the wrong anchor. So, what happens when the thing you've built your entire emotional foundation upon starts to crack? Let's explore the devastating domino effect of choosing a fragile foundation. The author contrasts these two states perfectly, using this exact highly poetic phrasing. When you have a solid pillar of stability, your mind remains steady. You feel that effort has direction and striving has a future. You know exactly why you wake up in the morning. But when you're without that pillar, or say when your pillar breaks, the mind becomes entirely disoriented. Suddenly, effort lacks a goal and progress has no direction. You're just spinning your wheels. Let's run through a rapid sequence of cause and effect here just to see how frantic this can feel when you rely on transient things. If you see your spouse as your pillar of stability, any change in them is going to violently shake your emotional world. If you see your profession as your anchor, losing your job will literally feel like the sky is falling. If wealth is your pillar, losing your money leaves you completely unmoored, just adrift at sea. If your current career is your foundation, any business failure will leave your entire world shrouded in darkness. See what's happening? This is the danger of a transient pillar. When it collapses, your entire spiritual foundation crumbles right along with it. And this danger extends to how we view other people, too. Say you see a teacher or mentor as your pillar of stability. What happens if something happens to them? Your entire worldview, your values, and your understanding of life itself will be deeply shaken. Or, zooming back out to politics for a second, if you see your country's president as your personal pillar of stability, the absolute moment they fall from power, your life becomes chaotic and directionless. Placing your ultimate inner peace in the hands of another human being, who is fundamentally temporary and fallible, is just a recipe for profound instability. So the crucial point is right here in Section 5, choosing a lasting anchor, the ultimate rule. How do we actually select the right anchor? After breaking down all the ways our pillars can fail us, the author brings us to this ultimate clarifying rule for evaluating whatever it is that grounds you. This is the absolute core takeaway of the entire text. It's basically a strict mathematical relationship. The longer lasting your chosen pillar of stability, the better. The shorter its lifespan, the more unreliable it will be. It is literally that simple. If your anchor can be taken away by a market crash, a political election, an illness, or honestly, simply the passage of time, it has a short lifespan. And because of that, it's inherently unreliable as a foundation for your ultimate peace of mind. You have to find something that outlasts the daily storms of life. So I want you to look at your own life right now. Look at where you draw your security from when things get incredibly tough. What is your pillar of stability? Do you even have one? And, based on the rule we just learned, is it actually built to last?